Welcome to the pharmaphorum podcast. This is web editor Nicole Raleigh, and today I have with me Ilya Burkov, Global Head of Healthcare and Life Sciences at Nebius, which is building one of the world's leading AI infrastructure companies. Based in Europe and listed on the Nasdaq, Nebius operates globally, and Ilya himself works with pharma and biotech teams to deploy AI and cloud-native infrastructure for improving the speed and indeed quality of drug development. Welcome, Ilya.
Hello. Hi, Nicole.
So it's pretty clear what we'll be discussing today, though a hint for some listeners perhaps, it involves AI. But before we begin, Ilya, perhaps you could share with listeners a little bit about yourself and the journey that led you to doing what you do today at Nebius.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you, Nicole. Very excited to be here and very excited to share some of the work that we're working on. So I'm Dr. Ilya Burkov. I'm based in the UK. Been leading the Nebius growth vertical in healthcare and life science for about 10 months now. I joined Nebius with over 15 years of experience in healthcare and life science sector. Before Nebius, I spent about 2.5 years at AWS Cloud Services, working at Amazon, which was a really great experience and introduction of cloud compute to myself. Prior to that, I was involved in several startups related to healthcare across the UK and Europe. And early in my career, I worked in orthopedics at Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge. I worked on biomarker identification of early disease onsets, regenerative medicine, and dabbled in some biomedical engineering as well. It's been a really interesting journey going from a clinical, biological, and life science perspective into healthcare and business and biotechnology. And now, with the introduction of AI, previously we only knew it as machine learning, and now it's accelerating things in unprecedented numbers.
Thank you, Ilya. So if we turn to AI in pharmaceutical research and development, I was wondering if you could share with listeners how high throughput screening and AI-driven lab automation compresses discovery timelines and improves clinical readiness. As you say, we're in this AI machine learning era, and there's acceleration at an unprecedented rate.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think that the best way to describe it is by combining these high throughput screenings with AI-driven lab automation and automation in general. We're turning drug discovery into a real-time data optimized process. So a lot of the AI models that exist and that are out there, they analyze results as they come in and guide the next sets of experiments. We've seen that this is dramatically speeding up iteration cycles, reducing the costs and time that it takes, the timelines in general. This compresses the timelines from over a year to a few months in some cases. Others that take decades can be done in years and so on. Because the data quality is higher, this can be accelerated. The candidates that are chosen are more likely to succeed clinically. So we're not just moving faster, we're making decisions earlier, and we're able to reduce the timelines, improve the readiness and so on.
Thank you. So my next question, why is access to compute not enough? Why do we have to be focusing on purpose-built AI native platforms for biopharma's next generation of breakthroughs?
Absolutely. So access to compute is no longer the bottleneck. I would say that drug development involves highly sensitive data, very complicated multimodal workloads, and strict compliance needs. So when you're looking at generic cloud platforms that aren't designed for that, it's tricky. And you need to have this AI native infrastructure. And I highlight the fact AI native because there is a lot of infrastructure out there that provides access to GPUs, provides access to servers and so on. But not all of them can handle everything from large scale model training to very secure, reproducible and traceable workflows, which is what we really specialize in at Nebius. But in short, I'd say biopharma's next breakthroughs won't come just from compute. They're going to come from infrastructure that's built to understand both the science and the implication, what's at stake. And I think that having a platform that's established on that is key.
Did you want to tunnel down into those infrastructures anymore?
Sure. I mean, when you're talking about GPUs, that is essentially the hardware tool. But what needs to be done is, a layer of software that needs to go on top of that to help manage everything and to help manage people who are not bogged down by clunky infrastructure. There's mountains of data, there's limited compute power, but very costly physical infrastructure. And, companies like Nebius are able to offer a full stack approach where you not only get access to the hardware, but a software layer on top to cover the managed Kubernetes, managed flow, managed Slurm, all of the technical requirements that are needed to get the training done, to get the inference side done, all in one place, rather than having the heavy lifting being done by the research teams or by the teams that are using the infrastructure. So what we want to do is make sure that we handle the difficult things of scaling up. We handle the difficult things of providing the infrastructure, all of the energy that it requires to run it, all of the technical skills that are required, and the scientists, the clinicians, the scientific community can concentrate on what they do best, and that is speeding up the process, very patient-centric care, and crunching the genomic data that they need to do all of this.
Thank you. So letting scientists concentrate on the science, so to speak.
Exactly.
So perhaps we could next discuss generative AI and how GenAI is helping pharma teams integrate real-world evidence into the pipeline, integrate it earlier in order to design smarter trials, that word smarter being quite apt for such technology, and make those better go or no-go decisions. What can you tell our listeners about that?
Absolutely. So generative AI has been transforming how pharma teams use real-world evidence to, make it much more usable earlier in the pipeline. Before a trial even begins, there's a lot of work that can be done, and generative AI can help streamline all of this. It can process unstructured data like clinical notes or EHR, so electronic health records, and imaging data to identify patient subgroups. It is a tool that can help to simulate outcomes and even generate draft trial protocols. All of those things typically take a very long time and very cumbersome to get over the line. This helps the teams to design much smarter, much more targeted trials and make earlier evidence-based and evidence-backed go, no-go decisions. This is the iteration process that they are able to do before they even take it to trial. This is a very important part. This is the preparation before, I wouldn't say the hard work starts, because this is all difficult, but before the more clinical side starts. And it's about reducing trial risk. It's about improving patient relevance. And ultimately, the goal is to accelerate the time to market with much greater confidence. And that's what they're after. Generative AI is at the forefront of all of that as a main tool and assistant for that.
No, absolutely. I mean, reducing risk and increasing relevance to the patients themselves is highly critical. So my final question, what next or where to now for this type of AI infrastructure we've been discussing for more successful pharmaceutical innovation?
So very good question. And I think that's on top of mind for everybody. I'd say that the next steps is making the AI infrastructure accessible, affordable, and there's ensuring that there's no vendor lock within this. So people can freely use what they need when they need it and have access to the latest and greatest technology, but also being truly interoperable. So connecting the discovery, the clinical development, and real world data into one cohesive AI native workflow, making sure that it's all in one place, that it's structured and easy to follow. With Nebius, you don't need 10 certifications to use the infrastructure. You don't need additional learnings. You have your machine learning team who are able to get up and running very quickly. There's no bloatware. There's no over-the-top vendor lock within that. It's very easy to follow. So we're moving towards platforms that support multimodal models, federated learning, and regulatory grade reproducibility. So pharma teams can innovate faster and stay compliant. They can work with a lot of the startups that rely on companies like Nebius to outsource some of the work that they cannot do in-house. And ultimately, the goal is that the infrastructure that doesn't support AI actively accelerates much better science, better decisions, and better patient outcomes at scale. We need to make sure that not only is there an infrastructure, but it's the right type of infrastructure. And you have the support of the engineering side, the software on top of the hardware to make things flow easily and accessible to no matter the size of the group that's working on this project or this scientific discovery. We are working with groups that are 5, 6 people, and we're working with groups that are thousands of people in a company, and they have access to the same types of chips if they need. This is truly inclusive in terms of the technology. What we find that with a lot of hyperscalers, there are a lot of limitations to the type of GPUs that groups have access to, and we want to kind of disrupt that. We want to give that indiscriminate approach to compute.
Thank you, Ilya. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Nicole.
And that concludes another episode of the pharmaphorum podcast. You can find more information about this episode, including a download link and information about previous installments at pharmaphorum.com/podcasts. The pharmaphorum podcast is also available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Podbean, and pretty much wherever else you download your other podcasts from. Just search for pharmaphorum and follow and hit subscribe. Of course, don't forget to visit our website itself, where you can sign up for daily and weekly news and analysis bulletins. And do follow us on Blue Sky and LinkedIn at pharmaphorum. That's all for now. Thank you for listening.